A large storm is coming to the United States over the next few days, and this will bring the return of some significant severe weather, which includes damaging winds, large hail, and a few tornadoes from the southern and central plains back through the Ohio Valley and the southeast, and as well as along the east coast. Additionally, a very warm weather pattern is expected as we go into the middle of May, as an omega block weather pattern will be impacting the United States. So in today's forecast, we are going to break down exactly what you need to know about the weather that'll be impacting the United States over the next 7 days, and we'll begin with what's happening across the country today. And we actually have a large storm system currently sitting over the Ohio Valley, and this is actually still bringing some showers and thunderstorms to the east coast, and we are expecting the potential for at least some isolated severe weather today, including damaging winds, large hail, and even a tornado or two will be possible throughout the afternoon and evening hours as this low pressure system very slowly moves to the east. And then back over in the southwest, our next big storm system is actually going to be forming over the next 24 hours, which will bring a little bit of severe weather today to Texas and New Mexico. But by tomorrow and Tuesday, we are expecting a more significant risk of severe weather in areas like Oklahoma and Texas and New Mexico, and then eventually going towards the Dixie Alley, where severe weather should continue into the middle and end of this week. Now let's talk more about the weather pattern that'll be impacting the United States over the next week or so. And to look at that, we are going to look at the jet stream. Our weather pattern is very different from anything else that we've seen this year. To begin with, we have a low pressure system that is located back over in the Ohio Valley, and then another one located back over in the southwest. And right in the middle of that is our omega block. This is what we call an omega block weather pattern. High pressure system in the middle, two low pressure systems both left and right of that ridge, and it basically creates the Greek letter an omega block. So what we are expecting here over the next week or so is an active weather pattern to continue back along the east coast, and even back over in the southern plains. We should be having a fairly active weather pattern for the next 3 to 5 days, as a strong southwesterly flow will pull a lot of moisture out of the Pacific, and we'll also have moisture coming out of the Gulf, and this will create an environment where it's favorable for not just severe weather, but also a lot of rainfall, which could lead to some flooding. So as we go into Tuesday into Wednesday, this low pressure system will be moving over New Mexico, and we will still continue to see a pretty strong southwesterly flow. Right now, Monday is likely going to be one of our main days of severe weather, mainly in West Texas and eastern New Mexico, but Tuesday could also be a more significant day of severe weather. It's going to depend, though, on our morning convection. Looks like there's going to be a lot of showers and thunderstorms out there, and we'll talk more about what's upcoming on Tuesday in just a moment. But overall, our environment is definitely favorable for tornadoes. It's just going to be a matter of how much rain is out there during the morning. That could end up stabilizing the atmosphere for the remainder of the day. Notice back over in the northeast, a low pressure system will continue to spin, but it will eventually get closer and closer to moving offshore. So generally speaking, by Tuesday and Wednesday, our chances of rain will decrease along the east coast until this low pressure system that's in the southern plains moves into that area as we go into Thursday and Friday. I do think severe weather is a possibility basically anywhere in this region, anywhere from Monday all the way through Wednesday and Thursday, because of this low pressure system very slowly moving. But generally speaking, this is our main major storm here for the next week or two. After this, by Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the jet stream is going to be lifted way back off to the north, which means ridging is going to build over the Rockies, and we are likely not going to see any major synoptic weather patterns that are going to lead to significant severe weather, at least over the next week or two. So definitely something to keep an eye on. I think overall, though, as we get closer to the middle of May, we will likely start to see our next big storm system eject over the Rockies, but obviously this is still well over a week out, so things could definitely change. Overall, the most major weather that's going to be happening between now and about May 14th will probably be over the next 5 days. Now let's talk more about the severe weather potential for the next few days, and we'll begin with Sunday, which is today. We have a marginal risk of severe weather in place along the east coast of the United States, and then also a marginal and slight risk back over New Mexico and Texas. These are, again, out of two entirely different storm systems. Generally speaking, for today, damaging winds and large hail will be the main concerns. There is a low risk, though, of an isolated tornado or two throughout the afternoon and early evening back over along the east coast of Florida, back up into the mid-Atlantic, and also even into Pennsylvania. And there's also a little 2% tornado risk back over in New Mexico. I do think we'll at least see 1 or 2 tornadoes today, so definitely make sure that you're staying weather aware and have multiple ways to receive warnings. It is very unlikely that we go live today, but in the case we do, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel and click the bell icon so you're notified if we do go live. Now, as we go into Monday, the risk of severe weather will increase back over in the southern plains, and it will begin to decrease a little bit back along the east coast, where damaging winds and an isolated tornado threat will exist anywhere around Florida, back up into Pennsylvania in the mid-Atlantic region. And if you're back over in the southern plains, a more significant threat of severe weather will exist tomorrow afternoon and evening, where large to very large hail, damaging winds, and a few tornadoes are possible, especially in the slight risk area, which is near Midland, Texas. I do think there's a chance that we could get a small enhanced risk of severe weather for very large hail and maybe even the tornado threat getting upgraded. Right now, our threat of severe weather is the greatest for large to very large hail in West Texas, so there could be hailstone sizes as large as the size of softballs. We could also see a few tornadoes. For now, it's a little 5% tornado risk back over near Midland, near the northern Permian Basin, but there's also a chance again for maybe a couple tornadoes outside of that region. I wouldn't rule out a 10% tornado risk, but with how small this area is, I don't know if we're going to get there, but I do think at least a couple of tornadoes are in the forecast for tomorrow. And there's also a 2% tornado risk if you're back over in southeastern Florida, so stay weather aware if you're in those areas. I know we haven't had much rain recently in Florida, but the good news is that a lot of rain is coming here over the next 7 days. And then as we head into Tuesday, the risk of severe weather remains very uncertain as of right now, but the Storm Prediction Center has issued a slight risk of severe weather for parts of southeastern Texas and a little sliver of southwestern Louisiana, and a marginal threat that encompasses a large chunk of North Texas and back over into Louisiana and Arkansas. And this is where all hazards of severe weather are possible, including damaging winds, large hail, and tornadoes. But honestly, right now on Tuesday, it is very uncertain what is going to happen. We could have a really significant severe weather day here across the southern plains and the deep south if we don't have a whole lot of convection in the morning. But as of now, a lot of models are showing that there will be a lot of convection. And if that does happen, I do think our general risk of severe weather will be limited. But if we don't have a whole lot of storms out there Tuesday morning, I do think that there's a potential for an enhanced or even moderate risk of severe weather. And I know that might sound kind of bold, but that's just the environment that we are going to have on Tuesday. Very strong low-level wind shear coming out of the southwest, in addition to a lot of instability and plenty of moisture coming right out of the Gulf, which would fuel a more significant risk of severe weather. I do think that there's one thing to note back over in Oklahoma and even in the Texas Panhandle. I do think a few tornadoes are possible also on Tuesday afternoon out of our low pressure system that'll be spinning here, and any storms that can stay in our warm and unstable environment could also produce tornadoes. So I do think Tuesday could be significant, but it will depend on what happens in the morning across the southern plains and the deep south. Now let's go more in detail with the timing of severe weather over the next few days, beginning with today, which we have showers and thunderstorms already out there this morning across the East Coast. But as we get closer to lunchtime, we do anticipate at least a few storms to fire up around our low pressure system. And I do think if we have a tornado risk, it'll be the greatest back over in West Virginia, where our wind shear will be more elevated during the mid to late afternoon hours. And there is also a chance back along the East Coast in Virginia and North Carolina, if our storms move out fast enough this morning, our atmosphere may destabilize to the point where there could be some damaging winds and hail out of a few storms later this afternoon. So something to keep an eye on, but generally our threat of severe weather again is very low today. Just make sure that you're staying weather aware and have ways to receive warnings. And then over in the southeast, we do have a line of storms moving across central Florida where damaging winds, hail, and an isolated tornado threat will exist. As we go into the afternoon hours, that line will start to weaken. A few storms will still be possible, mainly along the Treasure Coast. And then eventually later into the afternoon hours, a few more pop-up storms are possible, mainly to the east of Orlando, back through Miami, where there is a chance for damaging winds, hail, and an isolated tornado threat. I do think the severe weather threat by about 7 to 8 o'clock is much lower, and any storms that are left over will be mostly moving offshore as we get closer to 8 to 9 o'clock tonight. And then back over in the southern plains, it's a little bit of a different story. There will be some severe weather out there today, mainly back over in southeastern New Mexico and far west Texas, where a few supercells are possible with mainly a wind and hail risk. There is a chance though of an isolated tornado, as there will be enough wind shear. We have a pretty strong area of southwesterly winds in our low-level jet, which will help to amplify a potential for an isolated tornado. But as we go into tomorrow, I think our risk of severe weather definitely starts to grow. There will likely be some convection out there in the morning, but by the early to mid-afternoon hours, there will likely be a few supercells that'll fire off with the initial threat of hail, especially to the north of I-20 back up near Lubbock. But as we go into the mid to late afternoon hours, we should start to see some more supercells try to fire off in this environment, where there will be a potential, I think, for at least a tornado or two, especially if any supercells are in our warm area, basically where our warm and unstable environment is. And this is where we could have a lot more wind shear as well in place. And I do think there's plenty of that, especially if some storms can be near outflow boundaries as we go into the mid to late afternoon and early evening. And then eventually by the overnight hours into early Tuesday morning, we are going to have, I think, a very messy area of showers and thunderstorms across Texas and Oklahoma. This will help to amplify a threat for flooding. In addition to that, I do think severe weather will continue into Tuesday across areas like East Texas and even in parts of North Texas, and then eventually into Louisiana and as well as Arkansas and Mississippi, where there could be a bunch of storms producing damaging winds in addition to some large hail. And then there is a threat, I think, of some tornadoes. It's just going to be dependent on our storm mode and exactly how many storms we have out there on Tuesday. If it looks this messy, I do think it'll be hard to actually have that many tornadoes, but the wind shear will definitely be very strong on Tuesday. So definitely a day that we need to keep an eye on. Definitely a conditional threat, I think, for at least a strong tornado or two in this region. And then beyond this, we are expecting this weather pattern to stay active as we go into Wednesday and Thursday. This low pressure system will become a little bit weaker, but it should continue to bring the potential for some heavy rainfall across the deep south and as well as the southern plains on Wednesday. By Thursday, the storm system will continue to bring more rain in the deep south, and then by Friday into Saturday, a surface high pressure system will start to build back over in the Great Plains and as well as the Ohio Valley. This should limit overall how much severe weather that we see, but I do want to point out that even over the next few days, within the next 3 days, we are likely going to see more rounds of showers and storms back over in the Ohio Valley. Severe weather is on the very low side of things again for today, but this will also bring a potential for some localized flooding. And then eventually, as we go into Saturday and Sunday of this upcoming weekend, again, things do look to be fairly quiet. I don't think we're going to see anything major in terms of weather probably until the middle of May. Our next big storm system could be sometime around May 15th or 16th, and this is again very uncertain, but at least a lot of models right now are hinting at an uptick of severe weather by the middle and end of this month. So definitely make sure that you are staying more aware then, but overall, again, most of our weather for the next 7 to 10 days should be sticking to areas in the southern plains, the southeast, the Tennessee Valley, a little bit of the Ohio Valley for the next 48 hours, and also back into the northeast. And one thing that is going to come out of both of these storm systems is a bunch of rainfall. We are expecting several inches of rainfall, especially from New Mexico back into the deep south here over the next 7 days. We could even have some pockets between 4 to 8 inches of rainfall back over in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, so be ready for the potential of some localized flooding. Now, over the next 7 to 10 days, we are expecting temperatures to stay relatively below average for the majority of the United States. However, by the middle of May, things are about to get a lot warmer. After that couple of low pressure systems move more to the east, we are expecting warm air to dominate back over in the northern plains, back into the west coast, and this will start to usher into areas like the Midwest and the Ohio Valley by the middle of May, and that could actually spark the potential for some record-breaking high temperatures. So definitely something we need to keep a close eye on as we go into the middle of May, but by far, we are far past winter. We are definitely getting much closer to summer-like weather here in the United States. And as always, thank you all so much for watching today's forecast. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. As a reminder, there will be no live stream tomorrow, but if we need to go live on Tuesday, we will be here. Again, I'm graduating tomorrow with my bachelor's in meteorology. There should be a video, though, tomorrow morning, so stay tuned for that, and we'll see you all again in the next video.